Hey, good evening. Let's let a few people filter in here. Mr. Johnson, is that correct, right? Rusty Johnson, how are you,
You are
sir?
right. Good, Manny. How's it going, buddy?
Not bad. This is when Abel said, hey, I got this dude. His name's Rusty, man. He does this stuff on the travel channel. I was like, I want to get on a travel channel. How do you guys get these cool jobs?
That, that's a good question, right?
Yeah, we'll give it a
A
minute
lot
here as people
involved,
start
man.
filtering. Hang on. Let me do one of these numbers. There we go.
Nice.
So tell us, or Abel, you want to start this off with him?
We'll hop around, Manny. So Mr. Rusty Johnson, let's just talk about really quick. How many countries have you traveled to? Besides,
Really
here.
not. I mean, not too much, but enough. I started first, even just going to British Columbia. I started checking out wildlife through British Columbia. Then, really, one of my big trips was a 3,000-mile trek through 5 countries in southern Africa. So I landed in Johannesburg, and then went in through Zimbabwe and Botswana and Namibia, and ended up in Zimbabwe, but then went over the Zambezi River into Zambia for a while. And then after that, went down into the West Indies, where I was studying a volcano there's this crazy volcano on the island of Montserrat. It would erupt like 3 times a week. 80% of the island people left because as long as the wind was blowing in the right direction, it didn't bother the top 20%. But it was wiping out 80% of the habitat there for a lot of the animals. So I went and studied that, and then what really changed my life is going into the Amazon, to where I've done 35 expeditions into the Amazon.
Wow.
So how does so I know you've had a few different things on the travel channel, right? Not just one item.
Yeah, well, my main show is Hotel Amazon, and I freelanced a lot. A lot of the filming, a lot of stuff that not a lot, but a lot of my stuff at least has been on Nat Geo and Animal Planet and Travel Channel as well. But the show itself, where was my show, was Hotel Amazon, and that's where they followed me down into the Peruvian Amazon, where I built a lodge. The catch to it, though, was that I built the lodge with a friend of mine who won $35,000 on the Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
He had no idea what to do, but he wanted to do this, and he never has been to the Amazon, and he was kind of like a bull in a china shop. And then me, where I've lived there for 20 years basically, and am really connected with the culture down there and the people down there. That it during that time, the TV channels always wanted the conflict, and that surely bred.
Oh yeah. Yeah, TV
drama.
shows like drama, don't they?
Yeah, and the thing with that show, as much as I'm proud of it, and it was a great time doing, you're in the Amazon, man. You don't need to make drama. It's around every single corner. So sometimes when some of the producers wanted to, it was a toss-up whether for me to go into a lake and pull out a 17-foot black caiman, or see how they build the bathroom in the lodge. And they decided to build the bathroom in the lodge instead of having me catch a giant caiman. That's when I, yeah.
So they were like, "Oh,
you don't need to make it up."
I mean, were they just like basically pulling things out of a hat and being like, "Okay, what are we doing today? We're pulling an alligator out. Nope, we're building a restroom lodge or whatever."
Yeah, well, it was a balance that we had to make, because it was technically, I don't want to call it a build show, but we were building a lodge in the middle of the Amazon, but at the same time we were living in the middle of the Amazon, and so
literally
we had the entire. Yeah, and that's where the adventure is. I mean, we could film, building a hotel in Boise, Idaho, if we want. When you're in the Amazon, let's make the best of it, man.
So middle of the Amazon, I'm just taking a guess. There's no electricity, or is there some sort of electricity where you're at, or?
No, you get it by bringing in the generator. If you don't have a
Okay,
generator,
no
you don't have
actual
anything.
power out there, like you know, on
No.
the lines or whatever.
No power, no roads either. So you can't even walk on a road or take a car. You have to.
Everything
It's
comes
all
down
by
the
boat
river.
or
Down
bush.
the river. Yeah.
Yeah, or bushwhacking with a machete. Sometimes, you know, because in the Amazon there's like a 30 to 40 foot change in water level. You know, and that's why it's very difficult to guide there. You really have to know what you're doing, because there's some areas that you'll take people through where you're walking along and showing them, you know, the place, and then 6 months from now you're canoeing 30 foot in the treetops in the same area. So some areas you have to bushwhack, and then some areas then other times of the year you can go right in by canoe or something.
So it's real exploring. It's not just like you show up and there's a little campsite for you. I mean, you actually went in there, you know, get off of your canoe, and just there's nothing but trees around and bush and brush, and you got to get off and start making a trail for yourself, basically, not knowing what you might step on, or you know, what you might see
exactly. You know, you always, you know, but you want to know where some of the local villages are, because, you know, there's people who live there in village communities, and it's a village. They're, you know, they're open air huts with palm leaf roofs, but they live around there all their lives, you know, every day for their entire life. So, you know, if you want to be, you know, at least know where some of those are. So if you ever get caught up or you need some extra help, you can go and at least get to at least what they call civilization. Most people here in the United States wouldn't think it was civilization.
Yeah, so you get there, and it's not like a Hollywood production, or you got a trailer, you got cases and cases of sodas and booze and ice and a spread.
Well, it kind of got that way after a while. Yeah, because it was a big production. We had probably a crew of about 30 people. So we had to feed, house 30 people during shooting for about a year. And we split it up into two parts. So we did have our beer, and we did have our coolers and all that, but it's still, there was no trailer. It still was brutal hot every day. You're still shooting 18 hours a day. And at the same time as shooting and then doing your things, you don't know if there's a Bushmaster Viper, you know, next to you. You're still in the Amazon as much as you try to make the best of it.
Wow. So the question
that was more for the crew.
Yeah,
it was more for the crew, because some of these crew were coming from LA and New York, and they would die like in the first 3 days or quit. You know, so at least I had to make it somewhat hospitable for them. You know.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm not going over there. Well, we'll give you a Coke and a full spread of food every day. Like, all right, well, maybe. So what I want to know, what I was going to ask earlier was, how do you land something like this? How did you end up doing this kind of, I don't know, I'll call it an adventure job.
Like doing what you love on TV. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, it all started, I mean, it really was lifelong. You know, I'll kind of paraphrase so it doesn't take forever, but, you know, had a passion for wildlife my entire life. You know, I saw a dead rabbit one time my cat killed. At 5 years old, I fell in love with it. It wasn't even bloody or anything. It looked like a sleeping rabbit. And I was 5, and I put a cat rhinestone collar on it and a leash, and I wanted to take it for a drag every day. And my mom was like, "No, it's gonna rot. It's gonna rot. You can't do that." So then we buried it, and so then I went from there to a garter snake, and then I became a falconer. So I traveled to schools, universities for about 20 years with eagles, hawks, falcons, condors, owls, vultures, you name it, and the giant snakes and the vipers and all that stuff. And I go to schools and universities. And what got me traveling was that I wanted to be able to say that the animals that I have in hand, that I'm bringing to people, that I had firsthand knowledge of them, and not just something I read in a book. So that got me to Africa, because at the time I had a lot of African animals. So I could at least say I've studied them, I've seen them in the wild. Then I went to the Amazon to do that. And I just fell in love with the place. So I started going back and learning more about it, and started first leading trips down there. And I had guides. When I learned more, then I started guiding myself, and then started doing some humanitarian work For instance, like 3,000 kids a day die of malaria. So I would bring in mosquito nets for them. And just sleeping underneath the mosquito net saves their lives. And bring in some shoes and medicine for them. And while I was doing this, I was filming and selling it freelance. And so a lot of the production companies were saying, hey, Rusty, you need to do a show of your own. And, you know, let's come up with something. So we spent about a year or so, you know, passing around some ideas. And then ultimately we got the gig where Travel Channel was interested in doing the show. And then kind of at the same time, I was at a bar and I met my friend who I haven't seen in years, who won the money on Wheel of Fortune. And so we talked about it, and he was interested. And because at first I was just thinking of having like a small like bed and breakfast place to where you just have 5 or 6 people that would come down, and it's up like a private family adventure, as opposed to some places you got 40, 50 people in one spot and you don't know half of them. And it's weird sometimes. So, and I didn't want all that hassle because I'm more into the jungle. I don't care what color the pillowcases are and all that stuff. So that's not me. So he got him wanting to help with that. And then he kind of, well, let's do this, let's do that, and let's get bigger and bigger. I'm like, well, let's open first. You know, let's get one tourist first before we're going to build this mansion. And but so anyway, back to with the Travel Channel, and they were interested. You know, okay, let's do a show. And I said, well, here's a possibility. This guy wants to come down and do this with me. He's never been down here before. This might be pretty interesting to cover, and that's how that happened. But understand too, it sounds much easier than it is because
I can imagine.
You know, you're talking about so many different changes and so many different. Well, what if this? What if that? And you know, Animal Planet was interested in stuff, and then the person who was interested just got laid off. So now that's all up in the air, and so it's like the music business, you know, and you know, so that's the way kind of how that rolled out. So it still was a haul, but it was fun and well worth it.
So some of what you mentioned kind of ties into this question here. Are you with trained specialists or any kind of specialists of that area, or are you just on your own? You've been there enough where you just kind of take the lead
my specialty is wildlife. So as far as the wildlife there and the survival, when I first started going there 20 years ago, I met Joseas. You'll see him in Hotel Amazon. He's my right-hand man there. That guy was born and raised on an anthill. I joke, but he was, you know, and I've learned so much from that guy throughout the 20 years to where now when he gets busy and he can't make it, I still, you know, do what I need to do in that. So really for the survival. Now, when it comes to survival and wildlife, when it comes to people wanting to go down and do plant medicine or do any work with shamans and that, I've worked with shamans for many years, and I did that for a while. And then I married a shaman, so now she does all that work. So
nice.
That's awesome. Let's see, Betty Rowe. Well, it's an awesome volunteering and exploring at the same time. Love hearing about the mosquito net since we in America hate mosquitoes. I know, and we think we have it so bad here. I can't imagine how it is down there in the Amazon. Yeah, I can't even.
When you talk with the locals, it's almost like a dance, especially at night. If you're sitting around and talking to them, they'll talk to you, and while they're talking, they're doing this, and like it's a dance. Then they're slapping the mosquitoes away, but they're not even thinking twice about it. And then
because they know they're gonna hit something.
Yeah, right. And I say, well, here's some repellent. Do you want some? They're like, oh, no. At first, I'm like, that's crazy. Why would you, deny repellent? But you think from their point of view, it's like, all right, well, I grew up with these mosquitoes my whole life, so it's either that or wipe this unknown poison all over my body.
Sure.
And they don't use it. They don't touch it.
Do they have any natural alternative, like for repellent? Or
the natural. Well, most people wouldn't like the natural alternative, and that is termites. If you take a machete and you hit a termite nest, and then you put your hands on it, almost like a cartoon, they will swarm you and then cover your body. And then you smash them up and you crush them up on your body, and they're full of folic acid, and it keeps mosquitoes away.
Oh wow.
But if you want to do
survival. I'm sure I would if I was getting eaten by mosquitoes.
Oh, you do.
Right?
Yeah, you do. You learn quick.
Wow, unbelievable. That's now I've seen some of you watch a lot of video footage in the last few days, and I don't know, you got this thing with snakes. I know that there's snakes out there, and we're talking big boas. Is that what they are? Boas, right?
Well, boas, anacondas, the real dangerous ones are the bushmasters and the fertilants through the vipers, and I specialize in those. I catch them. I actually self envenomate with those. If you you do it right, it's really beneficial to you. If you do it wrong, you die.
So this is correct. What he's saying here, what Jimmy B's saying, folic acid for mosquitoes. Is that a
yeah? It's a good supplement to take actually to keep the mosquitoes away up here in the States.
Folic acid.
Yeah.
So you mentioned
that's a bushmaster head.
Oh man!
Holy crap!
Yeah, and if you look up really close, you'll see this one was super dangerous. See, it has two fangs on one side.
Oh man, yes, that's right.
Yeah, this has two fangs. I caught this one and milked the venom and went to let it go. It was 9 foot long. The guy, the native who lived in the area, said, "Listen, if you catch one, you got to take it home with you because I'm going to kill it." Because it killed in 1 week. He had his dog. One dog was killed by a jaguar, and the second dog was killed by one of these, possibly this one. And I had a rice bag over my shoulder and my little 3-foot snake stick, and I was going to catch one that I thought would be like 3 foot long. And we're 2 hours into the jungle, and suddenly this thing pops out in front of me, and it's 9 feet long. And and I'm like, man, I don't want to. Should I even go near this thing? But I just had these guys dragging me 2 hours because they knew where it was. I couldn't chicken out, So I couldn't use the snake stick or anything, but I with a machete cut down a sapling, caught it. Then I milked the venom that I wanted, and I was like, "There's no way I'm taking this back in a rice bag." So I figured, it dragged 2 hours over my shoulder, it'd kill me. So I tried to let it go, and when I went to let it go, it turned around and it came right for me again. I blocked it with the machete, but over my shoulder, the guy had a shotgun, and he gut shot it, killed it. I felt bad about it, so I took it back and skinned it out, and we ate it. And then I dried out I formaldehyde the head.
That looks
skin
cool.
I got the skin on my wall.
Oh man, yeah, it looks cool right now. Like I would totally own one, that little piece.
Yeah,
in that state, you would.
In that state, yeah. But in real life, man, I see any snake. I don't care if they say like a milk snake. Okay, maybe I'm at the zoo and somebody says like, "Here, touch it," whatever, cool. But if I see one out in the wild, like out in the yard, dude, I'm the first one yelling like a girl and running, man.
So it's amazing that the effect they have on people like that. Because there's nothing human-like about them at all. It's hard to relate to.
So obviously snake bites are a hazard. What other kind of injuries can you get out there if it's not from wildlife, from animals, I should say? What kind of hazards you got to look out for out there?
Well, I can tell you the most dramatic and then the truly most dangerous. The truly most dangerous is the stuff you don't see. And that's malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, the things you can't really run from. That takes the biggest toll on people down there. You can get vaccinated, obviously, for up here, and they have pills for the malaria. I go down so much, I've never been vaccinated, but I got malaria. That sucks.
Damn.
So yeah, I got malaria. That was pretty horrible. But
so you mentioned
I feel for them.
Like 3,000 people or children?
Just children.
Just children.
3,000 children. Now that's not just in the Amazon. That's worldwide. 3,000 children a day.
Wow, that's a big number, though.
Yeah, and something like those mosquito nets. I get them for like $10 a piece down there in the local city before I go into the jungle. I pile up as many as I can and hand them out because I connect with the indigenous communities there. Because while I'm filming and doing all that, the indigenous communities are the boots on the ground, the first line of defense, protecting the wildlife down there. So I really like to talk to them because a lot of them still have the folklore of how bad these animals are, and sometimes they kill them for no reason. So I like to educate them on how important they are and why we need to protect them, as well as they educate me on just about everything else. But at least I do my part with that and at the same time bring them the malaria nets and medicine too.
Is that price wise? I mean, you mentioned $10 a piece. Is that something that's cheaper out here in the States that you might bring from here to go that way? Or, I don't know. Amazon got these cheaper. I have no idea.
Well, the issue with that is that probably not. And if you did get them for a few bucks cheaper, it wouldn't help you in the long run, because if you're going to bring down amounts, one, you have to pay to ship them or to at least bring them with you on the plane. Yeah. And then when you cross customs, they're brutal. If they have any inkling you can sell this stuff, they'll tax you on it. So if I buy them down there, not only does it help out the local community that's in the city of Iquitos, so it helps them out, but it gets me out of having to pay tax bringing stuff in or extra weight charges when I'm on the plane.
So language out in the Amazon, would that be like Spanish or?
Yeah, it's Quechua is the native language, and if you're under 60, you probably don't speak it. It's Spanish. There, it's about 80, 90 miles from the Brazilian border. So the dialect of Spanish, it's like the double L's is more of a J. It's a hard J sound. So sounds like a more of a Portuguese dialect to it, but it's Spanish.
Because Brazil is Portuguese, the main language there, huh? Right.
Brazil, yeah.
Portuguese, yeah. Yeah, so you can still get a mix. Sometimes, like up here in New York, if I speak to someone from Mexico, they'll get what I'm saying, but they'll think that sometimes I'm speaking Portuguese to them because there is a dialect difference.
Wow.
So here, just a generic little quick map I snatched off the internet.
Yep. So you see right where on the western side where the lighter part is really the mountains, and then it turns green. That would be where Peru is, and that's where Iquitos is, and it's where the Amazon River actually is created. It's two rivers. It's the Ucayali and the Marañón, and where those two meet in a town called Nauta. It's where my second wife came from, and and that's where the Amazon River itself is the birthplace, they call it, of the Amazon River.
Wow. Now, how much crew do you travel with, or that comes out there with you when you're doing a show like this?
A show like that, it was a crew of about 30. I'd say 35. I had 25 in production from the United States, and I had 10 out of Lima that were a local production company. So it was about 35. Now that was huge. That was actually against my wishes. I preferred to shoot at a run and gun style and not have to feed and house 35 people in the middle of the jungle. I mean, that can cost upwards of over $1,000 a day to feed them. Wow. So when I'm filming now, and if I do any of my own production work or some of the stuff that I'm developing now, I'd bring that down to probably maybe like 8 or 9. Because when you have too much going on anyway, nobody acts natural. You can't go into a village and have villagers act naturally when you have 30 people and 17 cameras and soundmen behind you. Everybody has to kind of put on their face where, nowadays you can shoot with much smaller cameras that are equally as good. Shoot 4 or 6K, and sound is a lot better too. People walking around with booms, it gets annoying. It gets annoying. Actually, I was having dreams. Some of my dreams while I was shooting Hotel Amazon were about, I would just go throughout my normal day, but I always had a camera pointing at me and a director telling me which way to look or where to stand. And so they infiltrated my dreams.
Wow. even
they're like dreams. Yeah.
So you've heard of what is that? It's a plant. Ayahuasca. Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Ayahuasca.
I heard that can be pretty wild experience. Have you tried that yet?
Yeah, a lot.
Nice.
It's
a lot. He says.
I spoke to this snake for 4 hours the day after I killed it.
Holy crap!
No joke. I wrote a 3-part podcast about it. It told me my future and everything, man.
Holy crap, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Ayahuasca is an amazing medicine. It comes from a vine, and it's been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it changed my life. It changed a lot of lives. It's very good also for people with addiction as well. Matter of fact, I developed a TV show called Amazon Detox, to where I would bring people down who had PTSD, had past traumas or addiction issues that they weren't the traditional ways up here in the U.S. weren't helping them. And because that's what I do. I do that too with my wife, is bring people down for that. So I was going to do this show to do that. And it actually it got the attention of Dr. Drew. And so Dr. Drew Pinsky, so we've talked about it, and we decided to go partners on producing this TV show. So then COVID hit, and the networks didn't want to touch such an expensive show at that point. So now it's kind of on the shelf. But I mean, the trailer was shot and everything, and me and Drew are ready to go, because now his position in it was, because he's a doctor, he can't say it's good, he can't prescribe it, but he says, I've seen some evidence to where it has helped people. And what he wanted to do was basically come down with me, be a fly on the wall, and watch my process. And we would do brain scans on the patients beforehand.
Whoa,
put them through the process. Now, not only ayahuasca, but the whole process of what they call master plants leading up to ayahuasca. So they'd spend about 3 weeks to a month there, and then lead up to ayahuasca, and he would just monitor them, and as he says, a fly on the wall, because even in Peru he couldn't practice medicine because it's a different, he's California state licensed. So he would just want to watch it and then do a brain scan afterwards, and then just see the data and see, is this working? Are there pitfalls to it? And so I was really glad, at least, he was on the fence, but he was willing to come with me and see the process and see what the results were. Unfortunately, COVID kind of put a stomp on that. So it's on the shelf now, but maybe we can, it'll get resurrected.
So that's for those,
the iron was hot.
Yeah, that's what. So for those that don't know, what how do you say it? Ayahuasca. For those of you who don't know what that is, I only learned about it because I watch and listen to Howard Stern and his sidekick Robin Quivers. I don't know if you heard any of that, her experience with that. And,
I didn't. I knew she did it, but I didn't hear the details.
Yeah, her details were she took it, and then I think she puked for about 2 hours straight, and then she said that's when she started the hallucinations, or is it whatever was on her mind. Something very spiritual happened for quite a few hours.
Yeah, and it can get
like DMT. Sorry, does that contain like the DMT?
Yeah, well, exactly. It contains DMT. Now, the difference, what I would say, and I've never done DMT. I'm a straight traditionalist when it comes to that. But I heard of people that smoke DMT, it's very quick. Like it's like say if ayahuasca was walking like equivalent to walking through the forest, smoking DMT would be like taking a mini bike through the forest.
Jumping.
Damn.
But it's therapeutic. I hear it's therapeutic as well, but the base is the DMT.
Yeah, I've heard so many people open up spiritually after that. When they say they lose track of time for that minute. So like you said, for Robin, she might have thought she was throwing up for 2 hours, and in reality, she probably just puked, had a whole vivid dream, and then just snapped out of it.
Well,
Yeah,
for all the people that were there with her, they said it was probably it was over an hour, up to 2 hours of actual puking.
It can be the one ceremony I had with this girl here. I remember I was the only gringo there. It was my wife, so she's a shaman. It was with my other friend who was a shaman, and his brother who wasn't a shaman but knew enough. And when we all did it, everybody started throwing up but me. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? These guys are OGs with it, Yeah. And I'm like, what's going to happen to me? So they hear me throwing up, but what I'm actually doing is sticking my fingers down my throat saying, get this out of me, man. Because if these guys are hurling on it, it's going to wipe me out. But it didn't. Some reason I didn't throw up at all through it. And that incredible experience happened, and that lasted hours. I had the snake's babies like crawled up on my knee and like crawling on my shoulders, and it was. And I understand this is coming from a guy I'm a wildlife science guy. I'm not some Namistad type of hippie guy saying I want to go down here and experience this. This wasn't my thing. I was down in the jungle for like 8 years before I ever even touched it. And so I came from that side. And when I took it, it spun my world around of how incredible and really what existence is. It really changed me forever.
Yeah, Robin did say that it changed her life from that point forward. It just viewed everything in a different light. And she was better for it. She said she's glad she did it. That's amazing. And I'm kind of, I don't know if I would try that. And I imagine that's something. Is that available down? Is that plant?
It's like wild.
Is that available down here at all, or is that strictly a?
Yeah. Well, I know there's underground churches throughout the country that do it. And I hopefully soon it will be legal. Don't quote me on this, but I believe, like for instance, with Oakland and Detroit, how they legalize mushrooms. If I'm not mistaken, DMT and ayahuasca fall under that same statute of the mushroom. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure about that. So maybe in time it's going to be available.
The actual conspiracy behind why it's not legal. Everything else, you can go and buy yourself a 24-pack of beer and drink all night until you go and crash and whatever, right? But these things, they're saying they're not legal because of the that basically a retreat that you have, and you open your eyes to life and unity and all these other things that they don't want you to know. That's what I've heard everywhere.
If I ruled the world, I'd make it mandatory for everyone, at least just one time, and that's it. Because it changes lives. I see it over and over again. My wife, she was born on ayahuasca. Her mother had fertility problems, and that it does been known to help with fertility, and so she was like born with it in her blood, and she's a what they call ayahuasquera. She has been running ceremonies for years with it.
That's
Sounds
amazing.
Like a lot of benefits.
Question from Betty Rubble: how inviting or accommodating were the indigenous people to you and the crew? Being there, you've been there that long. You probably get to know some of the regulars already.
Yeah. I would never just go freshly into a place without being too prepared with it. I had zero problems because they already knew me for 10 years or 12 years before I even brought a crew down there. But in general, I've always been fully welcome, and not say I have been. They are just very welcoming people to everybody. You know, if you go down with the attitude of that you're humble, you're there, you respect their culture and their space, and your mind is open to experience how they live. They are the sweetest people. Honestly, when I started going to the Amazon, it was to really run away from crap going up here in New York. And when I went down there, they really became my family, and just they were so accommodating and such a wonderful people. Now, with that said, you know, you don't want to go screwing them over or go in with the colonial type of mentality. That will backfire on you. They're not going to stand for that. But if you're open to it and you're nice and I've even in the city in Iquitos, it's a city that's in the middle of the jungle. There's over 800,000 people there, but there's no road in or out. You got to either take a boat or fly.
800,000 people.
800,000. Wow. And there's concerts I'll go. Yeah, and there's concerts I'll go to that, you know, play like Kumba, merengue, and stuff, and there'll be 15,000 people there and just rocking out, and I'll be the only Westerner, and never once have I ever gotten any issues from people. Now, I've had issues for people, like I've gotten fights and had people try to mug me and all that stuff in the city, but that was always, I was in places I probably shouldn't have been, and you know, so that was bound to happen anyway. I'm an explorer, so I like exploring.
Yeah, even out of the jungle.
But if I was acting what you would say responsibly, never an issue.
So have you run into, you know, there are, I don't know how many there are, but there are some tribes that really don't have any interaction with, I don't know, what do you call us, Westerners or outside people or civilized?
Right. You know, the Western contact. And then there's two types of tribes like that. There's ones that are in the jungle and they know we're out there. They don't want anything to do with us. So they're keeping to themselves. And then there's some tribes that think they're the only people here and they don't even know we're out there. So some of those still exist, obviously less and less as the years go past. But you have to go pretty way deep in. Now, where I go, I sleep use a pillow for a rice bag when I'm, you know, when I don't have tourists with me. I rough it. I live the way they do. But I bought a tourist with me one time, or one of the times, and he wanted a tent. So those dome pup tents. So we went to the village and I was setting up one of the dome pup tents, and all the kids in the village gathered around me to tell me how much they liked my boat.
Whoa!
So, they've never seen ice, so they, even though they're contacted to the outside world, it's very limited. As far as the ones that have kind of really never seen, I don't really want to venture there. One, so I don't get an arrow in my neck.
I heard that.
And two, nothing good ever comes from it. If they did meet me, probably. So.
There'll be no interaction, like actual, connection. They want to be disconnected.
Yeah, or if they wanted to, they'd end up learning some bad habit from me that would screw up their whole tribe or something.
Right.
Like that,
iPad or something.
And see, here is a short clip of, what do you call the Awas?
Yagua.
So
these are their long houses. Yeah, this is the Yagua tribes.
Oh, those are little houses.
I know a few of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear about that. About the 7 census workers went in there and never came out.
Yeah.
So that's just, so these are a tribe that don't ever or hardly ever interact with anyone that's not from in their little region, right?
Exactly. And they're tough, man. because even their local tribes side by side, they'll fight. They'll kill each other over turtle eggs. You know, certain times of the year, turtles lay eggs along the beach side, and they live off of them. So, and if another tribe comes into that territory to steal turtle eggs, that's enough to get you killed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've seen some of these Amazon programs where, you know, they have, you know, they're bringing T-shirts and clothes to and I don't know. It's hard to, you know, that's scary. The thought that they'd be so afraid that they'd be willing to take you out, not because they're evil people or anything, but, you know, just because we're.
I'm sure they know
I have
something.
a friend. Yeah, I have a friend of mine who he spent years in with the natives. Gosh, back before I was born, and he was saying it was really funny. He came in by helicopter, and it was these reporters from Los Angeles, and they came in and they landed by helicopter, and the natives saw it, and so when they opened up the door and they came out. Of course, the LA reporter, you know, was pompous and arrogant and said that well, they must think that we're gods or something. And my friend spoke to him and said, no, they actually think the helicopter is a giant dragonfly, and you're the like maggots that are being brought along to eat off of, because they were really white, and they couldn't walk very well through the jungle, and they were always falling and you know, bombastic, and so they were just like so off out of their element. Yeah, they were big maggots, and this was a dragonfly to bring them to us.
Wow, I can actually see how. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense if they've ever. Chuck Nelson asks, I don't know if he's being a smartass or really. Have you ever met Andrew Zimmerman?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. He's been in town over there. He's been in Nikitos actually doing the show, but even in New York City, where we would have the meetings and that, but I never ran into him. But he had an interesting show.
And not that we need to get into what happened there, but there was a controversy with him, and that's why we didn't see a whole bunch of him on TV anymore.
Could be, and I actually don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember it.
Yeah, it could be. No clue on that one.
Elizabeth, have you heard of a Nat Geo doing a documentary about tree people and building elaborate homes at the tops of high trees and it being fabricated? Any word on that?
I've heard of that, and those people exist on the point of it being fabricated. Don't know. With that said, though, so much of a lot of documentary work in these shows are fabricated. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes, what's the chance of all those things meeting together? I thought of that years ago at Marty Stafford. When suddenly, what was the chances of being in this perfect snowfall with a bobcat leaping on top of a white rabbit and having a $50,000 camera pointing at it? It usually doesn't work that way, So in order to save time, save money, some things may be pushed along. I wouldn't, depending on the ethics of the director and producer, whether or not it's totally a lie. But maybe, you know what, this happened yesterday, but let's have it happen today. That happens a lot.
Like, we missed it. We should have caught it on camera. Let's just make it happen. Throw the rabbit at the jaguar while he's chasing you.
Yeah, I bet the battery was dead on the camera yesterday. So let's get this again.
Make it happen again.
So being that in that setting, do you have like cameras rolling all the time, or are they on standby all the time because you don't know what the heck is gonna come out of the forest, right?
It all depends. I mean, when there is downtime, you need it. Most of the time, that's when the sun goes down. But I don't like that too much because that's sometimes when the best stuff happens is at night. So, I mean, even tonight when we're done talking, I'm going and swimming out in the lake in front of my place that's infested with snapping turtles, and I go out.
Whoa.
I swear there's a state record in there, and I'm trying to catch it and get it. So, that's the freaks come out at night. So
Yeah.
but you really want them around, but you always have to have the backup batteries. And the worst part about the Amazon filming is hell on electronics. You're talking 99% humidity. We had some $75,000 cameras just stop in the middle of production. Just stop, just because of the humidity. Take them all apart, get all those the silicone bags and stuff sucking up the moisture. So that's always an issue in the rain. But you always want to have somebody standing by with a camera going, because you're there. You don't want to miss anything.
So humidity is like 300%. Is that right? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, you sweat in your sleep, man. It's it is. It's nice if you get late afternoon, you get a good rain and it's still cloudy. At nighttime, it'll get chilly to where you'd want a blanket. But if that's not happening, it's sometimes if you're out in the jungle, if you just kind of bed down and you're sleeping in the jungle without a bed or anything, and you'll get beads of sweat going down your neck, and you're like, is that a spider, or is that sweat? Is that a tarantula? And you're so it's, if you don't like humidity, it's like breathing through a sponge. But I like it. I like that better than the cold. You won't get me in the cold.
So as far as I know you said earlier that you will basically get that viper's head and do some kind of self-injection, I guess, for whatever benefits there is. I'm sure there's plenty of that. I mean, has there been any animals that just have bit you just without you trying to get bitten? Out in nature?
Yeah, sure. Monkeys.
Monkeys?
Yeah, they're little. I honestly, yeah, they're monkeys. And normally, if you're walking through the jungle, a monkey's not going to run down and attack you. But yeah, people will have them in the village as pets.
Oh, wow.
Or then you let them go later, and then they follow you around, and then they get rambunctious and want to take your food or take your stuff, and you don't give it to them. They'll get scratchy, they'll get bitey, and it's the worst possible position to be in. You'll see with Hotel Amazon, there's sometimes when I had some monkeys jump in the boat, even a big howler monkey, looks like a baboon. They're really frightening. And then, a couple of the spider monkeys and the capuchins and stuff, but they get rambunctious and they get obnoxious. And it is, especially on camera, it is such an awkward situation because you can't do anything. Because if you beat them up, you look like a jerk because you beat up a monkey.
Oh, he punched the monkey.
And if you don't beat him up and he beats you up, you look like a jerk because you just got beat up by a monkey. So it's like a lose-lose situation all the time. So, and they're too smart for their own good. So, especially the ones that get used to people.
I saw a skull on one of your videos, and it looked like, I thought it was like a baboon, but I'm guessing it's that monkey you're talking about, right? Because he had like big tusks or big...
Yeah, that was probably a spider monkey skull, and with the skin on it and everything. Yeah. Was it that one? Yeah, they use that to keep, believe it or not, to keep away bad spirits. It looks like one itself, but they use that to keep the bad spirits away. But that was probably, I think it was a spider monkey.
And what's the one you have hanging on your neck now?
This is awesome, man. This is actually it's 50,000 years old, and wow. This is a canine tooth from a cave bear, an extinct cave bear.
Holy crap!
Is that a claw or a tooth? Claw?
Tooth. That's a canine tooth,
man. It looks like a banana, like a small banana.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It was always a good way to pick up girls. It's like, why do you have a dry banana on your neck? It's it's about 50,000 years old. They're extinct, and I think they're roughly like 13, 14 foot tall.
Wow.
13 feet tall?
Yeah. Yeah, they make a grizzly look like super small.
Holy mackerel. Hey, let's play this. Oh, for real? I think I've got sound attached to this thing here. Let's find a way to play this. Hang on a second here. This is a video that, if I'm not mistaken, Abel made this, right?
Well, I just added that to it, but it's one of Rusty's behind
Oh,
it
yeah,
after that.
Where'd it go? It's not showing, is it?
No.
All right, I'll try to figure out the way to play this guy.
All right. So in the meantime, what that bat you have back there?
Yeah.
That's an actual like a dehydrated bat or whatever.
Yeah, that's a dehydrated fruit bat. Yeah, that's a dehydrated fruit bat.
That's from
and there's lots of those down there. That's from the Amazon.
From
yeah, that's from the Amazon, and we have those, and we have the vampire bats too. They're pretty neat.
Now, do you have those? Do they have those big? What do they call them? Like flying foxes. I know the Philippines got them.
Yeah, they consider these flying foxes, but they're not the ones you're talking about that are like foxes that fly. Yeah, those are gigantic. Our flying foxes maybe are about that big, and they're mostly fruit eaters and don't bother you. The vampire bats can be a pain sometimes. Not that they're up sucking your blood or anything, but like I had an issue where in a village that I work with the schools when I was bringing in medicine and nets, the way that the children raise money to get school supplies is they raise chickens and they sell the eggs to villagers. And then the money they get, they buy pencils and things like that,
Wow.
before I would give it to them. And when I got there, they said they were having problems that their chickens weren't laying eggs. And they knew I work with wildlife, so could I check it out? So I went in there in the coop, and they're all sitting there. And I look up in the corner of the coop, and there's a hole about that big, and it's just blood dripping down the hole. And what was happening is at nighttime, a vampire bat would come in and suck the hen's blood and then leave, and it would make the hens anemic, and they wouldn't lay eggs.
Wow.
So all they need to do is just nail a board over the hole, and then their egg production skyrocketed.
Whoa.
How typical would it be for one of those to bite a human?
It's rare. But I mean, if you're sleeping out in the woods unprotected, yeah, it happens. They do it to cows all the time. You won't really know it. Their saliva has anesthetic, so they lick you. And so when they bite, you don't feel it. And then they lick the blood out. But it's rare. But you're talking about things that that can hurt you down there. I always have to bring up, I don't know if you ever heard of the kangaroo. A kangaroo is a parasitic fish that if you pee in the water, it swims right up the urethra and sticks out spines.
I did hear about that. I just didn't know I forgot what it was called.
Yeah, and it dies there.
What?
And if you don't get it out, it just rots, and you.
How do you get it out? How do you get it out?
It's the only way, and surgically. It's rare, but I've seen X-rays where it happens. But I think it is so rare. I mean, first of all, I don't skinny dip where there's piranha anyway. So
good idea. Yeah.
The chances of that happening, they'd have to at least bite through my bathing suit to get there.
So, is there any myths or misconceptions about any of the wildlife out there? Like, for example, piranhas. I mean, if you're going to take
almost all of it. The piranhas. If you're not bleeding, there's nothing to worry about. I swim constantly, night and day down there. If I'm bleeding, I won't. They can't see too well. The water's dark, and mistakes can happen. And Anaconda. I actually bought a generator in, and I played the movie Anaconda for a bunch of the locals, and they were laughing their asses off the entire time of the way that this snake acted and screamed and did all this stuff. Most of these things turn tail and run the first time, the first thing they see it, or something like a jaguar as well. You're lucky if you see the prints. Those things hear you long before while you're stumbling through the woods, smashing a machete through the woods. They are long gone. So it's more Hollywood stuff, the Hollywood piranha. But there's some areas that I have to say, like for instance, if the water level drops and a big puddle forms because the water level dropped and now this river just went to a big puddle. Now, if there is dozens of piranhas stuck in this puddle on the verge of starvation, you don't want to jump in there.
Oh yeah.
Those situations, they go for whatever they could. But if you're out in the open river or even in the flooded forests where there's plenty of space, never an issue. I've been bit by piranha twice, and it was all by sticking my hand in a bucket to see if they'd bite.
Ow.
It was a late night.
Painful, I imagine. Yeah.
It was not too much because the teeth are like shark teeth, and it's like a razor blade. It was painful in the morning, but at the time it was just like a razor blade. I was really lucky they didn't get me in my wrist, being stuck in the middle of the jungle. But they caught me here, and on the end broke right through the nail, and on the end of my large finger.
Holy
but
cow.
that was more of a field test to see what they do.
All right, they got this video up, and let's play this guy real quick.
It's my friend Joey Eppert playing guitar there.
Oh, wow.
It's a little spectacle caiman anaconda. Another anaconda. That's a Bushmaster.
Wow.
Pasha just peed on me.
That's me getting pissed on.
This is a big male. That's really mad.
That's a pilot I did called Feeding Frenzy for Animal Planet.
What is that thing right
rescue.
there?
For breakfast.
That's a rescue Amazon manatee.
That's
a maggot. That's a.
Oh, I saw this. I can't believe you actually. I mean, they eat these things, right? Like, there's no big deal to them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I've eaten them live and they bit my tongue. They're horrible.
That's the same face I made when I tried a vegan burger once.
That's the yeah.
That's great. Just crush them all up.
Oh, that's what you were talking about for the
Yeah.
where you get the folic acid from.
Yeah.
It's like that slow climb. You get on the roller coaster, and all of a sudden, you're sloth or a monkey, and that's that dive down. Feel it's like armor on the back.
Oh, so cool.
Hey, thank you. Well, that's actually very, very little. Anacondas around here can bank up over 20 feet long. Wow. I mean, when they get big, they'll eat caiman. It's nice and clean, but a lot of them, when they get up top, because of the humidity and everything, actually a moss grows on their back.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a nocturnal bird, Pauraki.
I caught him right off the branch with my hand.
Whoa.
This was a dumb idea.
This was a good day.
Oh.
It's a bullseye.
After that, I had a game show in like China invite me out to do a sharpshooting competition for a blowgun. On one of those crazy game shows, and it never happened, but they were wanting me to do it.
They knew you were a good shot. You can not hit.
I'm good
with one of those things.
So you said right before we came on here, you got a little friend with you that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah. Well, this is this little snake, but this is a gangster snake.
Huh.
And ways a gangster snake. I got a call from the police department, and they arrested a drug dealer in the next town over, and they were taking him to jail. And they says he's not getting out for a long time. And there's this snake in his living room. They said, "Come and get it." I was like, "Hell yeah, man, let's go."
No.
There we go. And this is a boa. This you'd see down in the Amazon.
Now, how big is that guy?
This is a small one, like 6 feet. Full grown, get about 10 feet. They're live bearers. They're constrictors, so they're not poisonous at all. But she's really good. She was a little skinny, had a couple burns on her back from a heat lamp that must have fell on her while she was with the drug dealer. And so I've been treating that. And every time she sheds, it comes off and starts healing up. So she's definitely bouncing back and looking good. And actually, you see that tongue hang out a lot. She's ready to eat.
And what do you feed her?
Well, typically in the wild, they eat small rodents, eat birds. Here, I've got her eating chicken legs from the supermarket. Yeah, they say they only eat live. And as I was a kid, I figured, you know what? With all due respect to the snake, they got a brain about the size of a pea. And if I can't trick them, it's not saying much for myself. So if you warm it up enough and you wiggle it right, they hit it and they eat it. And it's better than to have stinky rats hanging around the house all the time.
I bet.
So the danger to humans, that snake, or when they get bigger, is the constriction part, where they actually wrap around you and squeeze the crap out of you, I guess. Yeah,
well, they don't squeeze. Well, they do squeeze, but it's not what you think. Many think that they crush their prey, and it's not. See, crushing your prey takes too much energy, and these are extremely lazy animals. You know how you know if a snake is hungry? It moves. Otherwise, it's not even going to move, man. So what they do is they bite and they constrict. But once they constrict, they get a good hold, and then they feel the way the prey reacts, because they know the first thing they've ever done, the first thing that prey ever does when it gets grabbed is it takes in a deep breath.
Yeah.
And so what the snake will do, will get a good hold and just sit there and then wait till the prey needs to exhale. And when the prey exhales, they just then will hold in that position. And then really the prey smothers themselves. It's pretty brilliant. And it conserves energy, because after that, it's going to take her about an hour to eat it, because they swallow it whole. And that's where they really expend off.
Save energy.
Yeah, they got to save the energy for that. So whenever I've gotten grabbed by real big ones, I'll kind of like take that deep breath, but then breathe from my diaphragm and my stomach, and then keep my chest and my rib cage out until I figure out what I need to do to get out of it.
So you've experienced that tight grip?
Yeah, not about nine times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
I said nine like 3 times. I don't know if that's some brain damage or
right.
Remembering.
So those can get big enough.
Flashback there.
Now I've seen them. I think this was in. You tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right. Vietnam or somewhere in Asia, where they can actually swallow people, and they've cut them open and they found a dead person inside of them. Yeah,
you'll see. There's some hoaxes for that, but it is legit. Something like in the Amazon, a anaconda can be fat as a 50-gallon drum full grown. That could take down a human. Sometimes they have problems with the shoulders, but a small stature. A lot of Amazon people are very tiny.
Yeah.
So yeah. And over in Asia, the Burmese python, in Africa, the reticulated python. I mean, people get skeptical. The reticulated python will get bigger than an anaconda. Not as fat, but they'll get longer.
Wow.
Especially a medium build person, it can happen. When I was in Africa once, I had a guy who we went out to catch snakes, and he saw a hole, and there was a time of year when they would burrow, and the guy had a bag, and I said, well, he's going to put a snake in the bag, but he took out a ball of cloth, and he took the cloth and he wrapped it around his leg, and then he laid down and he stuck his leg in the hole, and he sat there for like 15 minutes, and then he called his friends and asked them to pull him out, and we pulled him out. He had a reticulated python, swallowed him up past his knee.
Whoa!
Oh, shit.
And then they opened up the mouth and we pulled from the tail and to get it off. And he didn't get a scratch on him, because as long as he had more cloth than tooth that could get through, the teeth were just getting caught in the cloth. I said, you're nuts. He says, nuts is walking around digging around for a snake all day in the burning heat. because I just
Yeah.
laid down, and then now we got it and we're going home. But yeah, it's a different
Oh,
world.
man.
here.
So their teeth are not as big as the other snake you have there, right? That bush.
No, they're hooked back and they're serrated and they're sharp, but they're not the long fangs that inject venom. So, like this guy, you can see they have, the long fangs, and then you'll see the serrated teeth behind the fangs.
Oh,
No, yeah.
Now, the snake like that has basically just those type of serrated teeth, minus the fangs.
How domesticated can that thing get? How long have you had that guy?
This one only had about a year or so, but they can get extremely domesticated, but it's just what they're used to. If you get them when they're young, like any animal, really, almost. Like for instance, things like monkeys and baboons, you don't want to get them young because they quickly find out they're stronger than you, and then they tear your head off when they feel like it. But these guys from day one, if they're handled, they don't know any better, and we can see how he's hanging out. Now, if you yank one of them out of a tree and try this, you're gonna have a horrible day ahead of you. But if they're used to it, they're used to it. And I've had snakes 10 times this size that play with my children. Not play, but my children play with them. And of course, they're animals, and you got to be careful. I'm always there and making sure, because it's an animal, So let's say, oh, they're bonded and they trust one another. No, but they tolerate one another, and it never had instance. But it's because of constantly being handled. And with what I do for a living, they always have human interaction, so they're really used to it. But you always want to be careful. Most bites occur with tame snakes is feeding time. They have prehistoric brains, and if I was just holding a rat and all of a sudden I put my hand in front and it smelled like a rat, he'll tag it. They don't see like we do, and they're much more instinctual. But that's human error.
Right. So he's just chilling. She's chilling right there. Yeah. She's comfortable.
Yeah. You just act like a tree, and they're all good.
Wow.
I was gonna say, because she stopped moving around, and now she's just in a chill mode right there.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Fascinating. What about spiders? Before we start to wrap up, you got big spiders out there? I mean,
they not only are they big, they're named bird-eating spiders.
What?
Yeah, Google that one, man. There's
those are the ones that they
say
like
a hand, and then there's like a hand, and then next to the spider is like twice the size of the hand.
Wow.
The bird-eater spider, and it's a type of tarantula. And there's black widows down there, but even the spiders, it's something that they're surviving out there as well, more so than us. So they're not going to be just like sitting out on the branch, hanging out. Most of them, you have to like pull back logs, pull back branches, and you find them there. So very few are they just like, willy-nilly, just like walking about. They're hiding too. So most of my interactions with them, I had one bite on my shoulder, but I was sleeping on the jungle floor and I rolled on one. And that was my fault. But aside from that, I've always had to go looking for them. They just never showed up or fell on you or something.
So I got one here. I looked it up, and this thing is, I can't even imagine this thing. Look, it's bigger than a dude's hand.
Whoa. That would even look Photoshop, man. Wow.
Oh, man.
Now that's legit. That's legit. Wow. That's not Photoshop. Yeah, so they're there. But they tried to hide themselves, thank God. But you do have to be careful if you're chopping a smaller tree that's going to bend and flex while you're cutting it, because anything that's sitting up in the leaves or the branches above it is being shaken and will fall on you. Bullet ants, that's another one. I got bit by a bullet ant actually during the show, and they call it a bullet ant because it feels like you got shot.
Man, I got
And,
bit by something I thought was a bullet ant, but I wonder what a real bullet ant feels like.
oh man, this you'll lay you up for 24 hours, and
Damn. So this
and
was not a
for me. My the weird part was being in the jungle and getting tunnel vision to where like
Oh, wow.
the sides are darkening in, and you could only focus. And
So
I
there's
started
actually
throwing up, and I
side
threw up. Oh my god, yeah! And you're not doing anything for 24 hours.
Wow. It's not just an
you're-
ant
you're
bite
on-
that hurts.
Yeah, you're on your back, and they're the biggest ant in the world. And I ended up throwing up. Oddly enough, Hosea's while I'm throwing up in the jungle. Hosea's, and it was filmed. They're like, Rusty, don't move. I'm like, why? I'm throwing up, and then he pulls me back, and I'm like, literally puking on a fertilance viper, curled up beneath a log, like 2 foot in front of me. But it was the last damn thing I saw. And you never know what's around any corner.
I mean, I keep looking at that freaking spider. I mean, I put my hand on my table here, which is probably the same size, more or less, if not as bigger than that guy's hand. And that thing is, I mean, maybe the body is that big as a hand, and then you got the legs that extend out, making it.
I would think the world is ending or something. I'll for sure be running for my life.
It's bad enough when you got a brown recluse here in Texas walking around and speeding across the floor, you kind of panic. Yeah. I mean, does these things move very fast or?
No, they're very, very slow. They jump, but small jumps. When they attack prey, they're going to give a little bit of a leap, but it's not like some Carl Lewis jump or anything. But they're mostly slow.
The craziest one I've seen here, bro, it's the wolf spider. I think that's what it's called. And
we have them up here in New York, man. They're pretty creepy looking.
I mean, I didn't know. I stepped on this thing, and all of a sudden, there was a bunch of babies. Is that the wolf spider?
The wolf. I've seen that happen with a brown recluse also carrying the babies.
That's what that was. I don't know.
Carrying the babies.
I stepped on it, and just like 70 little things and I was like, "What the heck?" That was creepy.
Yeah, but, and I don't know. Lately, back then, years ago, I did want to just kill it and put a blowtorch to it, right? So that happened once, and all the little babies just spread out. So next time, I took some dish liquid and I made a big ring around the spider before we kind of attacked the spider, and then they couldn't leave that area where you had your poison or liquid or whatever. But then I felt bad, and they're actually good for the house. They actually kill other bugs and little critters and stuff like that. So
I've heard that.
If you ever see sometimes when probably not so much now because of the cameras are so much better, but back in the 80s or so, where you'd see the close-up pictures of the spider with all their eyes and and all that, like real close-up. I had a friend of mine who was really good at that. And I'm like, man, how the hell you get the thing to sit there so still? You know what he'd do? He'd spray it with hairspray.
No.
And it would just freeze.
Wow. It'll freeze in whatever state he's in right there.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's funny. Is there anything you would not touch or eat down there?
Well, there's things I have, but I didn't enjoy. Like there's Masato, and Masato is jungle beer, and the old ladies in the village chew up yucca, and then they spit it into a barrel, and it ferments and turns into beer. That's called Masato. I'll drink that just out of respect when I have no other choice, and I don't want to insult them.
Right.
Those maggots there, it's called suri. They're alive. I only do that when I can get credit for it and have it on camera.
That's a big maggot.
Oh yeah. It's from a giant beetle, like a Goliath beetle. And but I'd say offhand, nothing that I wouldn't try once at least. I won't say I like it, but I'd try it.
I'm guessing I would lose weight because I wouldn't eat 95% of the things that you would eat down there. And
you're sweating all the time anyway, man. I tell you, it's a great diet plan.
I guess I'm dying over here. I'm not, I'm not going to eat anything. So, wow.
So is there like a lot of eating fish, or what is? I mean, fishing, or what's like their
staple? The staple is fish. and chicken. I'll have to tell you that the chicken down there puts our chicken to shame.
Wow.
It is so much better. It just tastes so much better. The fish as well. And like I'll eat fish constantly down there, and I won't touch it up here in the States. And like my wife, she was born and raised there, obviously, and she can actually eat a fish and then tell you what river it came from.
Oh wow!
Because
Really?
the taste, because of the diet of what it eats, and the fish is amazing. There's more species of fish in the Amazon River than there is the entire Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
Oh man, is
We
there was
also have
a
the electric
female?
eels too.
There was a female with you in that video we saw a little bit ago. And somebody said, "Was that Diane Sawyer?" I didn't think it was Diane Sawyer, but
What?
Diane Sawyer
No.
was
No. I think that was my buddy's girlfriend or something like that.
Gotcha. I guess I'm safe from being eaten by a snake. Yeah, same here. Good evening, gentlemen. Natural instincts are pretty set. Reminds me of the parable of the scorpion and the frog. Scorpions. What about scorpions?
Yep, they're there. And the smaller they are, the more they kill you. And that's
I
the
hate
weird part with
scorpions,
them. Yeah,
One
the
time there was
tinier
a
they are, the more dangerous they are.
There was a scorpion in my house once. I couldn't even sleep at night, but that's just me. And that's one of the scorpions, that are natural here. So whatever.
Yeah.
So
You can find them. They glow under black light. So
Right,
if you bring a black light, they glow like it's Halloween at night when you're looking for them.
Yes, yeah. I would have to set up I don't think a mosquito net would be suffice. I'd have to seal my, I don't know, I would say bed, but you don't even got a bed over there, do you? You sleep.
Well, when I bring tourists down, I take them to where we have beds, but normally I'll do a hammock or the floor. You can get a circle of flame throwers for you.
Yeah, that's right.
That sounds better.
And one in my hand, just sleeping with this thing. Holy cow! Yeah, that's it. That's amazing. So, what is what was the show you said? Hotel
Amazon.
Hotel Amazon. What is the premise of that?
And that was a building the hotel, and it was kind of as I said before, confrontational because I've lived there for a long time, and I had set to have this small, quaint place and that's what I do now. I bring in small private groups, and a buddy of mine who won a bunch of money on Wheel of Fortune, he came down and burned it up trying to put in a big lodge that had 35 rooms and all this stuff. And in the meanwhile of trying to build that, dealing with the rainy season, dealing with what was called a gringo discount, where anything you buy is about 3 times the normal price because you're a gringo.
Yeah.
And then him trying to fit in there and deal with it, where it was just a total other world for him. And finally, we got open, we got some tourists in and stuff like that. So, and then we finished it up. It was a 6-part series, but that's not me. I'm a nomad. So, like for instance, when people come down to the Amazon with me, I'll first say, well, what do you want to do? Some want to fish. Some want to hang out with the shamans. Some want to see animals. So, if you want to see the shamans, well, I'm going to take you to part of the Amazon where I know all the shamans. If you want to fish, I'm going to take you to a different part where you'll find the best fish, and so on and so forth. To where when you have the big lodge, you're stuck with what you have there. I mean, you can only really stay right around. I have places now that are tiny little huts, and we have pods of pink dolphins that just swim back and forth all day.
Wow.
They're pink and they're weird because they're the only dolphin in the world that can turn their head like a human because they've adapted to swimming through flooded forests. So they'll pick their head up out of the water and then look around, as opposed to a normal dolphin. Yeah, they're cool. And you could call them in, once they get used to you being around. But there's crazy lore about them. Locals won't kill them because they think they have something to do with the devil. And if you try to kill the devil and you don't get away with it, your life is screwed.
Yeah.
And they also think that they can shapeshift into a human and like get all the girls pregnant, and then go back into the river again.
That's wild. That's wild.
But I'll run it. I remember one time I was in a village and I saw them. I'm like, oh, guys, there's some dolphins. Let's swim with them. I jump in with the dolphins and they're swimming around me. And I turn around and talk to my friends and like no one's there. They're like back in their houses. I'm like, what the hell? You know, they're like, I'm not going near those things. But you know what? Yeah, there's something to it because I pet one and I'm like, here, pet it. And they're like, no. And I'm like, you know, all this lore and all these stories and stuff. And I was petting this pink dolphin. That night, I was laying in bed, and I suddenly got this hot flash, and then I got this cold flash, and then I was projectile vomiting and everything coming out of everywhere every 10 minutes for like 7 days. And I joke, I thought I got pregnant, and I aborted it or something. But because they say if a woman touches it, they get pregnant. I think that might have happened to me. But more so probably was a bacterial. I probably pet it and honestly, you know that maggot I ate, it was right before I ate that maggot. I think what happened was that I pet it, and then when I ate that maggot, I had my fingers in my mouth.
Yeah. Could it have been the maggot? Could it have been the maggot?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think so. It was,
No?
Well, it was definitely the dolphin. Because I've eaten a bunch of those without issue, especially if they're cooked. That one was cooked. I've eaten raw and even had no issue, but the dolphin and just the bacterial from the water. Because if you drink the water, a local can drink the water and be fine. If I drink the water, I'll spend the next 2 weeks on my back dying. Wow.
Yeah. So so water, something as simple as
bring
water.
It in.
Yeah.
I bring in just jugs and jugs of water. I don't mess with that. You know, you could boil it and do all that stuff, but you know, when I leave the city, you know, for next to nothing, you can get the big 5-gallon jugs. And I'll just load up on a bunch of those.
Yep, I've heard a lot of stuff about water, man. I mean, stuff could be in there.
So, is that effective at all to get some river water, boil it, or how long of a process would that have to?
You know, if you bring it to a good boil for a few minutes and then cool it down, you're all good. But then I'm just thinking, all right, well, what was living there is now just dead in there, and I'm drinking it anyway. It might not get me sick, but it's still in me.
Yeah.
You know, why don't I just bring in bottled water? So
you're down there in the Amazon, and for whatever reason, like you said, one of these numerous things that you just mentioned over the last hour, you get sick. I mean, at what point do you, all right, let's boat this guy out of here or chopper him out or...
Well, it's for other people, you know, I do it pretty quickly. Knock on wood, never had an issue, but if it did come up, you know, we have a good escape plans and that to get back to the city quick enough. I mean, when I say quick enough, sometimes it, you know, depending where we are, it may take 3 hours. Other times it may take a day and a half or so or more. And you know, that's kind of the chance we have to take. For me, it's just not a question. I will not go into a hospital down there. And I go straight to the witch doctors. I had my first time down there. I got something bit me in my finger and spit eggs in there. And then the larvae were boring their way out and hatching out of my finger for like months and months. It was called subcutaneous larval migrans, it was called. And it would just come out. And I came to the States with it. And went to 7 doctors. They had no idea what to do. They loved it. They're like, oh, I thought it was going to be a boring day today. You know, this is cool as hell, man. And they were thinking about skin grafting it off. Then they said, oh, I'll try this medicine. But the side effects would be, I'd rather have the worms living in me than what these side effects were. I went back about 8 months later, and it still was happening. Went to the shaman, and she's 90 years old. And she did a thing where I have it on video. It was really weird because she was like sucking on my finger and then spitting it out. But I'm like just sitting there with like a 90-year-old woman sucking on my finger, like looking at the camera. And it's like, how do you react to that? I'm not sure. But I just kind of went with it. And then she took these herbs and mashed them up in some liquid and stuck them on the finger and wrapped it up in like a cottony gauze stuff. and said, just leave it there till the gauze falls off. And the gauze fell off in a week, and it was 80% gone. And then within 2 or 3 days, it was all gone and never to return.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine
I paid her $5 in a pair of scissors. And when I came back 6 months later, the $5 was still on the table that she had.
Oh, no.
But for a doctor to tell me they don't know what the hell's wrong cost me $300.
Shit. But imagine the knowledge that they have that they've already seen this before. So it's there for years, generations, and it's amazing.
And that's why, because my buddy Jose, who's in the show with me, I showed him this, and and the woman's name is Pashkita, the shaman. He says, "Oh, Pashkita will take care of it." It wasn't as if she might know what it is. Maybe she could help. It was just she'll take care of it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how confident she was, and that's exactly what happened. It's I don't know where they learn this stuff, because who teaches you? It's because there's things that you'll eat there that'll cure your kidneys, and another thing that you'll eat that'll kill you in like 10 seconds. And who told them this and figured it out? It's an amazing mystery.
Yeah, I'm sure she's got quite a story to tell from the moment she was a child.
Yeah,
learning from her grandparents, I imagine, the elders in the village or whatever.
Yes, I've got like 5 hours or 6 hours of interview video with her, and then my wife spent tons of time with her, and she's third generation shaman, so she records and documents all the plants and the histories and everything, the dosage and everything of what we need. And sad, it's called alternative medicine. That was the medicine.
Right.
The alternative is our stuff.
Our stuff, exactly. Wow, man, this has been absolutely fascinating. I don't know if you got something else for Mabel.
Yeah, Rusty. So, I mean, I'm totally fascinated by everything you've told us right now so far. I mean, it sounds like, from what I have captured, is it's not even the cameras that you love following you. It's not the shows. It's the animals. I mean, that's the first thing that's how you got started, right? With that rabbit. Yeah. And all that stuff. So you started. Now animals. You're holding a snake right now. I would never hold one like that. So now the love for the science. I'm saying, it's been years since you've been doing this. There's so much knowledge that you could pass down yourself. What do you do now? Mm-hmm. What are your plans, going forward?
Well, right now is today I just opened up a Patreon community, literally 4 hours ago, and it's at rustyjohnson.tv is my website, and that has all my stuff on there. But so what I want to do now is I used to go to tons of schools, 3,000 schools I've visited through the years. But now with the technology, through my Patreon, what I want to be doing is going through, traveling, taking the videos, creating video for schools, for homeschoolers, for teachers, and for the general public, and then producing all that, provided it to the Patreon. And then with that, connecting with the indigenous communities, as I said, to show them how to best take care of the wildlife, at the same time passing around the malaria nets. I'd like to grow that community to where then I can go over to Africa and do it and film wildlife, and just even throughout the world, and have it raw. I mean, that's the thing that I noticed when I did Hotel Amazon, where there was so much stuff because of the sake of, we have to make the money on this show. Yeah. We have to, contrive it sometimes. We have to manipulate it sometimes. And to this, where it's just real. And it's real, it's raw, and you get the information. And it's fun, too, with exploring. You never know what's going to happen. It's always nuts. And so I think I can do that best through my, Patreon community. But again, not just schools. The big thing is schools, also content for teachers to show the students and put into their curriculum, but homeschoolers, but also the general public as well. And then with the past adventures that I've had through Africa and through all the Amazon and all the other different places I did, I'm going to do where I'm doing right now. I'm going to say a podcast, because it's not going to be like, hey, it's welcome. It's almost my notes of all the stuff that happened that I'm going to use for documentaries and use for books. But it's a real behind the scenes of what it's like. And not only what it's like to be an explorer, but the truth about it. People see the glamour. They see the glamour of the animals. They see the glamour of the traveling. But man, it can be crazy stressful. Not knowing, where the next paycheck will come from. Not knowing even, where you're going or what's going to happen. I still wouldn't change it for the world, but there's a lot of stress involved. So, this would be more the show also behind the scenes of what it's like to do what I do. But really it's to spread more knowledge and experience. My experience is to give people a deeper respect and understanding of wildlife, but also to promote that, you can go to the Amazon, you can go to Africa. I'm dyslexic. I graduated with a 2nd grade reading level, right, and from high school, but I learned by doing. So, and I had no university behind me. I had no organization behind me. I went and did it. And some people say, "Oh, you're lucky that you did it." I'm lucky I had the health and that, but I made the opportunity, and no more special than anybody else. I had a passion for it, and I just did it. And the way I do things sometimes makes it more entertaining sometimes, because I planning sometimes isn't my strong point. I like to build a jet engine while I'm flying it.
That's smart.
So, yeah. And hey, man, it's fun. And this all happened to me. And again, it's just isn't going to stop. Now that Corona's been dropping down or whatever, I'm going to get obviously back down in the jungle. But I want to spread what I'm doing there, go back to Africa. Because now also, too, you can see the Africa shots I had here. That was awesome stuff, but it was the best I could do with high 8 video at the time.
Okay, I have to go back a little bit. I got to go scroll back here because I saw something. Where did it go? Maybe it was right here somewhere. There was a bird on top of a hood of a car.
That's my condor.
That freaking thing is bigger than the car. There it is right there.
It's the biggest bird of prey in the world.
Wow.
I raised that since a baby.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
How much did that thing weigh? What did that thing weigh?
25 pounds.
Oh, that'd be heavier.
And that's with hollow bones. They fly, so they have hollow bones. You'd think it'd be more, but it's still the largest bird of prey in the world.
That's huge.
Holy man.
Yeah, the feathers are as long as my arm.
Another animal that would definitely run if I saw at a parking lot. You can keep the car.
Right? Wow, that's been, I've always.
But I want to go back to Africa and then have that,
Yeah.
Have the 4K, the 6K stuff, and now I have, through my experience, I have connections with anti-poaching units, and people that I can embed in to go and protect these animals and film it while we're doing it. So it's just there's endless opportunity, and I think really grow this Patreon community. We're going to be able to pull it off and get some fantastic content.
When's the last time you were down there, either in the Amazon or in Africa?
Got Africa. I've been focusing on the Amazon, so it's been over a decade since it's been in Africa, and in the Amazon, ever since the COVID, I've been stuck up here. But I'll go back tomorrow if I can. So it's going to be soon.
Hey, Manny, you want to put that link he said? What is that? That
Patreon it's Rusty John. The Patreon. Well, my website's rustyjohnson.tv, as in television, and all the link for the Patreon link is there, and all other stuff too. You can check out.
It's funny how you say since the COVID, I've been stuck up here. Other people would be like, man, I'm stuck out here in the middle of the jungle right now. And so I see this as something you call home, right? This is what you call home, right?
It is. It is. I feel more at home there on my worst days than up here on my best days. And it's got nothing against being up here. It's more just my genetics or mindset or something. The stresses of up here give that pit in your stomach sometimes. Like like when you get called to the principal's office. And,
Yeah.
and when I'm in the jungle, it goes away. So it's that simple, really.
So what state is home? Where do you call home here in the States?
I'm in upstate New York, just between New Paltz and Woodstock in the Hudson Valley, and born and raised.
Upstate, is that anywhere near Plattsburgh at all?
It's that's like that's way upstate.
Yeah.
For me, upstate, because I'm only like an hour and a half from Manhattan. Plattsburgh is much more.
Oh, this is
I
one
delivered
part
that baby in Ohio.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna ask. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I delivered that baby. It was on my birthday, no less. It was weird.
Oh wow.
And all I had to cut her umbilical cord with was baby. You know those safety scissors they give children for cardboard?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's all I had to cut the cord with. It took like 4 or 5 swipes at it to cut it. But it was incredible. I thought the midwife was in the corner of the room, and she'd help if anything went bad. I've had experience with it, but not that much. Everything went fine though, and then I found out that was just like an old neighbor or something sitting in the corner of the room. It was like nobody knew what they're doing there. So, but knock on wood, it all went smooth. And that's actually, that baby got a lot of things started because after I delivered her, 6 months later, she got malaria. And
oh no,
I was able to at least get her to the hospital and pay for her treatments. And not very few children have that luxury down there. And that's when I realized on how big malaria of an issue is. And that's really what got me into the nets. Before that, I was delivering medicine and shoes, protect them from snake bites and stuff. But yeah, she made me start doing the malaria nets.
Wow, it's very that was your bride there, I imagine, that you showed a couple of minutes ago.
Yes, that's my lovely wife.
In case anybody missed it, let's see. Nice photographs.
Thanks.
Is that the?
She's easy to photograph. That's Pashkita. That's the. Yeah, she's the one who fixed my finger.
Oh, let's see. Let's go back to her. This one here.
Her.
This lady who fixed your finger.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Just judging on body language, ladies are just looking like I can handle life.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen life the way you've never seen it. Any kid can come out from anywhere else in the world and try to teach me something. I don't think so.
Yeah, and she's in her 90s there, and if she gets up and walks around and talk to her, you'd think she was maybe in her late 60s.
And she's still around to this day?
Yeah. She's almost pushing 100.
Wow.
That's awesome. Me Too says, great work, sir. May governments everywhere stop shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to nature and surviving.
Yeah. It's all marketing, and what I mean by that is that we can, when we work to save wildlife and that is something that we need to do and we need to protect it. But really, if it doesn't suit human beings, people don't want to do it. And the thing I really push is that this is preserving our quality of life. If we don't have places like where you can see birds, you can see wild animals, whether it's in your backyard or whether on the other, in the Amazon, our quality of life is drastically going to change. And so this not only is benefiting what we call the environment, it's preserving our quality of life. And I think everybody obviously has skin in the game on that.
Wow.
Yeah, in Texas, North Texas, there's a Fossil Rim Wildlife Center. I don't know if you've heard of that. They've got wild animals roaming. It's kind of like a safari situation. You just travel in your car, you stay on the road, and you can feed the animals, and they come into your car and all that stuff. And there's issues now, people protesting zoos, and gosh, that monstrosity of like the Tiger King TV show, which quite honestly was pretty entertaining, but like watching a train crash. But places like that just can't exist. But
we really need places like the Los Angeles Zoo, like the Bronx Zoo, to where they can do it right. They can put these animals to where they're in their natural habitat. Because what's going to happen if we don't have that connection to where people can go and see a real lion, see a real giraffe, or see a real elephant, but in a proper habitat, then they're not going to care about it. You can't care about anything you don't know. You can't connect with it. And that's at least one of the things I love most about lecturing at the universities and schools is that, they're looking eye to eye with that animal. And I'd get letters about, my son just asked to go to the library for the first time in his life. Or, my daughter is studying marine biology now because of meeting you and then having that one-on-one face-to-face contact with that animal. If all you see is, just in books and on TV, it's a great alternative. But to have that face-to-face to where you see that personality of that particular animal, it can't be seconded. That's a different one. I found that one on an old lady's front porch, like 2 miles down the road. But it's a boa from Madagascar. I have no idea how it got there.
Wow. Looks smaller, right? That one's smaller.
Yeah, that's a small stumpier tail too.
Man, this has been fascinating. I appreciate you coming on to do this. It's been very, I don't know. I thought of going at some point in my life, going on a safari, but I know it can be for many cost prohibitive. I don't know what they cost. I've heard rumors of what they cost, but I know they're not cheap. And but at some point in my life, it's on my bucket list. Is whether it's Africa or even Australia, but definitely want to go on some kind of safari.
Africa is just incredible. I'm going back. Hopefully with Patreon we can throw together a few projects. I want to film the anti-poaching units down there. And I just absolutely loved Africa. That's a place that changed my life as well. Because when I first went to Africa, it was for the wildlife. But then I got hanging out with the locals. And I'm like, man, these guys are incredible. And that got me more into the cultural part of this process and realizing that they're really the main connection to the wildlife because they live side by side one another.
Amazing. Well, Abel, if you're good, I want to say, Rusty, it's been an experience, and I would definitely like to have you back on again. Maybe I don't know what's your time frame like. You think an estimate of when it may be clear for you to go back?
That is still up in the air, but you know what? We'll keep in touch. I'd love to come back. We could even do one if I'm not in the jungle, not too from this city. We could actually do an interview from the Amazon.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. So, what do you do for internet over there? What is it, satellite service, or how does that work?
Yeah, a satellite service, and sometimes if you're not too far out of the city, you can still get a little bit of cell service if the weather's good. But satellite when you go out real deep.
That's awesome. I want to thank you for stopping by, and definitely have you back again, and maybe
My
even
pleasure.
I don't know, talk animals. Maybe we can have some of the because we have a lot of teachers that watch our program on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So it'd be nice maybe to one day go, hey, we're going to have him on. He's going to bring some animals, or we're going to talk about animals in the wild and stuff like that.
Great idea. Absolutely. And Manny and Abel, thanks so much for having me. This has been a blast. Now I'm going to go out swimming looking for snapping turtles.
Careful out there.
There you go. Yeah, be sure you cover yourself. You don't want anything.
Snapping anything.
Yeah, right. Rusty, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, man. My pleasure. Have a great weekend, guys.
We'll be in touch again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. It was definitely something very, I don't know, a little bit out of our regular program that we do, but definitely something I would want to do again. So keep an eye out for that. And an update on Mr. Miguel Escobar. We will have him back sometime next week. I believe Tuesday or Wednesday. We're trying to nail down a date. So if you happen to catch our 3-hour show on Tuesday night, it was quite the show. And if that video went viral, it's still, I don't know, it's 4,000 views right now and counting on YouTube, and almost that many on Facebook. And emails like crazy, comments like crazy are still going. And he's going to be back with some more information, and someone else with him, and someone from the healthcare business will be on with him also. So I'll let you know when that happens. Abel, that was a good one. It was nice to have Rusty on. Definitely
Cool
got to
guy.
do that again with him.
Cool guy.
Yeah, anytime he's got somebody with a snake on board, we definitely want to watch that. We just can't have Bam with his bird at the same time with that snake.
Right.
You don't want,
She's gonna start hearing things going off. and
right?
Someone's gonna get bitten over there or something. Bird's gonna be going crazy.
Oh man, yeah. And what's the name? Dakota? No, not Dakota. Kodak. That's Bam's bird. And Bam is going to be with us tomorrow. We're doing a Saturday night special, and so join us tomorrow night. I'll put down the advertisement for that too. Anything else for us, Abel?
Not a whole lot, man. Just great evening to everybody. Great night, actually. Good night to everybody.
Yeah, that was interesting. Definitely do that again. Yeah, everyone. Abel, thanks, buddy. We'll be in touch tomorrow. Everyone, have a great night. Have a great Friday. Have a great Saturday. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.